"Uncle, I know how to make your daughter walk again," the black beggar boy told the millionaire. Robert Anderson stopped in his tracks. The busy New York street seemed to freeze around him. For 3 months he had consulted the best doctors in the world. 3 months since the terrible accident that had left his precious daughter Sarah paralyzed from the waist down. 3 months of watching helplessly as the light in her eyes faded day by day. "What did you say?" Robert turned to face the small boy sitting on the sidewalk with a torn cup for collecting coins. The boy, who couldn't be more than 10 years old, looked up at Robert with clear, intelligent eyes. "Your daughter, sir. I know you from the newspapers. I know about the accident. I can help her walk again." Robert felt anger rising in his chest. He had thrown millions at the problem. The top specialists from Switzerland to Japan had all said the same thing: Sarah would never walk again. Her spine was too damaged. And now this street child was mocking his pain? "This isn't funny, boy. Don't you dare joke about my daughter." Robert's voice came out as a growl. "I'm not joking, sir," the boy said softly. "My name is Elijah. My grandmother was a healer in Ghana before we came to America. She taught me things that your doctors don't know." Robert nearly walked away then. But something in the boy's calm confidence made him pause. What did he have to lose? Sarah's birthday was coming up next week, and he had nothing to give her that would bring back her smile. How could you possibly help?" "I need to meet her. I can't explain it in words." Elijah gathered his few belongings, a worn backpack and the cup with maybe $2 in change. Against all his better judgment, Robert heard himself say, "My car is just around the corner." The mansion on Fifth Avenue was the grandest building Elijah had ever entered. The security guards gave him suspicious looks as Robert led him inside, but no one dared question the boss. "Wait here," Robert said, pointing to an elegant sofa in the entrance hall. "I need to speak with my daughter first." Elijah nodded, carefully sitting on the edge of the expensive furniture, afraid to touch anything else. Upstairs, Robert found Sarah staring out the window of her room, her wheelchair positioned to catch the afternoon sunlight. At 13 she had once been full of energy and laughter. Now she seemed like a shadow. "Sweetheart, there's someone I'd like you to meet," Robert said gently. Sarah turned, her eyes dull. "Another doctor?" "No, not a doctor. He's different. His name is Elijah." "What's the point, Dad?" Her voice was flat. "We both know I'll never walk again." Robert knelt beside her wheelchair. "Sarah, I would travel to the ends of the earth to find a way to help you. I don't know if this boy can do anything, but I'm not ready to give up." "Are you?" Something flickered in Sarah's eyes, the tiniest spark of hope, almost extinguished but not quite. She nodded once. When Elijah entered the room, Sarah was surprised. She had expected someone older, not a skinny boy in threadbare clothes. "Hello, Sarah," Elijah said with a smile so warm it seemed to brighten the whole room. "I'm glad to meet you. You're the one who thinks you can help me?" Sarah couldn't keep the doubt from her voice. "I don't think." "I know," Elijah answered simply. "But first I want to hear about you. What do you love to do?" The question caught Sarah off guard. Most visitors only asked about her condition, her pain levels, her treatment. No one had asked about her interests since the accident. I used to dance," she said softly. "Ballet. I had a recital scheduled for the week after the accident." Elijah nodded as if this was exactly what he expected to hear. "Dancing lives in the soul before it lives in the legs," he said. "My grandmother taught me that healing starts from within." Robert watched the exchange with a mixture of hope and skepticism. "What exactly is your plan, Elijah?" "I need to come here every day for 3 weeks. I'll use my grandmother's methods, special exercises, herbal remedies, and spiritual techniques." "Spiritual techniques?" Robert frowned. "We're not looking for miracles or magic. My daughter needs real help. The body, mind, and spirit are connected, Mr. Anderson. Your expensive doctors treat only the body. That's why they've failed." Elijah spoke with a conviction that belied his young age. "And how much will this cost me?" Robert asked bluntly. Elijah looked surprised. "Nothing, sir. But I do have one condition." "Which is?" "I live with my sick mother in a shelter downtown. If I help your daughter, I want you to help us find a real home and pay for my mother's medicine." Robert studied the boy carefully. "If, and that's a big if, you can help Sarah walk again, I'll buy you and your mother a house and pay for the best medical care available." "Dad, please," Sarah interrupted. "Let's try. What do we have to lose?" Looking at his daughter's face, seeing that tiny glimmer of hope, Robert couldn't refuse. "We start tomorrow," Elijah said. The first week was difficult. Elijah came every day after school, carrying a small bag of strange-smelling herbs. He made Sarah drink bitter teas and led her through visualization exercises where she had to imagine energy flowing through her paralyzed legs. Robert watched skeptically but said nothing. The doctors had warned him about false hope and miracle cures. Yet he couldn't bring himself to send the boy away, not when Sarah was finally showing interest in something. On the 7th day, as Elijah was helping Sarah stretch her legs, she suddenly gasped. "What is it?" Robert rushed to her side. I felt something. Just for a second. Like a tingling in my toes." Sarah's voice trembled. Robert looked at Elijah, who nodded calmly. "The energy is starting to flow again. The pathways are opening." "That's impossible," Robert said. "The nerves were severed." "Nothing is truly severed unless we believe it is," Elijah replied. "Your daughter's spirit never accepted the paralysis. Her body is following her spirit's lead." The next day, Dr. Reynolds, Sarah's primary physician, made his weekly house call. Robert mentioned the sensation Sarah had felt. "Mr. Anderson," the doctor said privately after examining Sarah, "I understand your desperation, but you mustn't encourage these fantasies." There was no sensation. "It's psychosomatic, her mind playing tricks because she wants so badly to feel something." "But what if it wasn't? What if this boy's methods are actually helping?" Dr. Reynolds sighed. "Who is this boy anyway? What are his credentials?" He learned from his grandmother. Traditional healing methods from Ghana." "Mr. Anderson, please. You're a successful businessman because you make rational decisions. Don't abandon that rationality now. This boy is taking advantage of your vulnerability." But when the doctor left, Robert found Sarah and Elijah laughing together as they worked on exercises. He hadn't heard his daughter laugh in months. By the end of the 2nd week, Sarah claimed she could feel sensations up to her knees. Dr. Reynolds remained skeptical, but scheduled new tests, just to be thorough. Meanwhile, Robert had his security team investigate Elijah. The report confirmed the boy's story. He lived with his mother in a homeless shelter. His mother, Grace, had emigrated from Ghana 5 years ago and had been battling lupus without proper medical care. Elijah attended public school where his teachers described him as exceptionally bright but often absent, presumably to care for his mother or earn money on the streets. Robert felt ashamed for doubting the boy's motives. One evening, as Elijah was preparing to leave, Robert offered to drive him home. "No thank you, sir. I can take the bus," Elijah said politely. "I insist," Robert said. "I'd like to meet your mother." The shelter was in a rundown part of the city Robert rarely visited. Inside, the space was clean but crowded with families making do with minimal privacy. Grace, Elijah's mother, was a beautiful woman with the same intelligent eyes as her son, though hers were clouded with pain. Still, she greeted Robert with dignity and grace. "Your son is an extraordinary boy," Robert told her. "Yes," she agreed with a proud smile. "He carries his grandmother's gift. I always knew he was special." "You believe in his healing abilities?" "With all my heart. My mother could heal with her hands and her knowledge of plants. Elijah learned everything from her before she passed." "Why hasn't he tried to heal you?" Robert asked. Grace's smile turned sad. "He has tried. But some conditions are beyond even the most gifted healers. And some journeys we must make on our own." Robert left the shelter with a heavy heart and a new perspective. Whether or not Elijah could truly heal Sarah's paralysis, the boy had already begun healing something else, the emotional paralysis that had gripped his family since the accident. The next day, Robert had his staff prepare the guest house on his property. "I want you and your mother to stay here while you continue working with Sarah," he told Elijah. "It will save you the commute, and our family doctor can look at your mother's condition." Elijah's eyes widened. "Really? You would do that?" "Consider it a down payment on our agreement," Robert said. The 3rd week brought the most dramatic changes. During one session, while Elijah was guiding Sarah through a particularly intense meditation, her right leg suddenly jerked. "Dad," she screamed. "Look." Robert, who had been watching nearby, jumped to his feet. "I saw it. It moved." Sarah concentrated hard, her face scrunched with effort. Slowly, trembling, her foot lifted an inch off the floor, then dropped. "How is this possible?" Robert whispered. "The body knows how to heal itself," Elijah said. "Sometimes it just needs to be reminded of the path." Dr. Reynolds was summoned immediately. After a thorough examination, he looked bewildered. "I can't explain it," he admitted. "There's definitely increased neural activity. It's as if new pathways are forming around the damaged areas." I've never seen anything like it. The news spread quickly. By the end of the week, Sarah could move both legs slightly. The movements were weak and uncoordinated, but undeniably real. Reporters began gathering outside the Anderson mansion, having caught wind of the miracle recovery. Robert refused all interviews, protecting both Sarah and Elijah from the media frenzy. Meanwhile, Grace was responding well to proper treatment. Color had returned to her cheeks, and she spent hours in the garden, identifying plants similar to those she had known in Ghana. On the final day of the 3-week period, Elijah came to Sarah's room with a serious expression. "Today we try standing," he announced. Robert started to object. It seemed too soon, but Sarah was already moving to the edge of her wheelchair. "I'm ready," she said. With Robert on one side and Elijah on the other, Sarah slowly pushed herself up. Her legs trembled violently, but they held her weight. For 10 seconds, then 20, then 30 she stood. Tears streamed down Robert's face. "You're standing, sweetheart. You're actually standing." When Sarah sank back into the wheelchair, she was exhausted but radiant with joy. "Tomorrow," she declared, "I'm going to take a step." 3 months later, Sarah walked across the stage at her school's talent show using only a cane for support. She couldn't dance ballet yet, but she performed a simple choreographed piece from her chair, incorporating the moments when she could stand and take a few steps as highlights of the performance. The audience gave her a standing ovation. Robert had kept his promise to Elijah. Grace now received treatment from the best lupus specialists in the country, and they lived in a comfortable apartment near Sarah's school, where Elijah had enrolled with a full scholarship arranged by Robert. Dr. Reynolds published a paper on Sarah's recovery, attributing it to unexplained neurological regeneration possibly stimulated by alternative therapeutic techniques. The medical community remained skeptical, but couldn't deny the results. One evening, Robert invited Elijah and Grace for dinner at the mansion. After the meal, while Grace helped Sarah practice her exercises, Robert took Elijah aside. "I need to ask you something that's been bothering me," Robert said. "That first day on the street, how did you know about Sarah? How did you know who I was?" Elijah smiled. "My grandmother always said that healers are led to those who need them. I saw your picture in a newspaper someone had left at the shelter. There was a story about your daughter's accident. That same day I saw you walking down the street looking so sad. I just knew I was meant to help. But how could you be so certain you could help her when all the specialists had failed?" "I wasn't certain," Elijah admitted. "But hope is powerful medicine, Mr. Anderson. Sometimes people need permission to believe that healing is possible before their bodies can remember how to heal." Robert thought about this. "So it was just faith?" "Faith in possibilities," Elijah corrected. "Your doctors had faith only in what they could see and measure. They closed the door on possibilities. I simply opened it again." Robert looked through the doorway to where Sarah was laughing with Grace. "Whatever you did, you gave me back my daughter. And not just her ability to walk, her spirit was healing even before her legs started to respond." "Healing is never just physical," Elijah said. "The greatest distance in healing isn't between paralysis and walking, it's between despair and hope." As if sensing they were talking about her, Sarah looked up and called, "Dad." "Elijah, come see what I can do." The two walked over, united by the journey they had taken together. Sarah stood up from her chair without assistance and took 5 steps toward them, arms outstretched. "I'm coming to you now," she said, her face shining. "Just like you both came to me when I needed you most." Robert embraced his daughter, feeling her strength growing day by day. Over her shoulder, he met Elijah's eyes and mouthed a silent "thank you." Some would call it a miracle. Others would search for scientific explanations. But in that moment, Robert understood what Elijah had been teaching them all along, that healing comes in many forms, and that sometimes the most powerful medicine is simply having someone who believes in possibilities when everyone else has given up. As the sun set over the mansion, casting golden light through the windows, a family once fractured by tragedy stood whole again, bound together by the miracle of hope.